Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. I have a really fun review for you guys from the brand Wristbuddys. A little about them: they're an online store selling affordable, high-quality watch straps and watch accessories, and they are actually based out of Stockholm, Sweden. A very special thank you to the team over at Wristbuddys for sending these straps over for review. I've seen their products pop into my social feeds, so I reached out and they were kind enough to send over a few samples to support the channel. Now, in terms of the types of products, these are going to be some really cool fitted and curved end premium TPU rubber straps themed to perfectly match with Swatch's recent Omega and Blancpain bioceramic collaborations. Now, in terms of the application specifics here and the fitment, you have the 20mm Moonwatch strap at $75 and the 22mm Scuba 50 Fathoms, or as I like to call it, the Thrifty Fathoms strap for $79. And these are pretty cool. They have this really neat fabric-like weave style texturing with accent stitching available, and of course I chose to get the accent stitching that I thought really set off this Ocean of Storms, as well as this awesome Mission to Moon phase full moon Snoopy watch. So I think these turned out really nice, and honestly, they really elevate these watches, and I'm excited to share them with you guys. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, let's start with the one that started it all, which is this Thrifty Fathoms Ocean of Storms model. Now, this one really won me over, and it was the first of these collaborations that I thought was actually worth getting out, waiting in line for, and I have to say it was pretty exhilarating to secure one of these again at retail price. Wasn't too shabby, especially considering the level of a rush you're going to get from just trying to acquire something and having that shared experience with other folks in the line, other enthusiasts, having those just fun conversations, you know. So for me, again, this is not by any means a great everyday watch. It's more so a, well, I mean, you could wear it every day, but you know, there's a lot of watches that you could wear every day that you probably shouldn't. But yeah, this is just genius marketing material for me. That's the way I see it. It's a collectible of genius marketing material. This is not my choice by any means for a great everyday timepiece, but it happens to work. And I have to say, I've put it on different straps. Some straps a lot more expensive, guys, and I loved those, but I have to say there's something about this. It doesn't exceed the bioceramic nature of the case. Now, I've put this on some really expensive premium sailcloth straps, and yeah, I mean, the cost is about half the cost of the watch itself, so that can be a little wild, especially when you have something that is meant to be so premium and then you put it on something that is really not necessarily meant to be premium. It's just meant to be a lot of fun, and I feel like the contoured nature and just the feel of these are so light, it just goes really well. It almost feels like it could have came from the factory like this, so I like that. I love that kind of OEM plus modification where it just feels like this could have been a factory option, and I think it looks fantastic. You have that nice weave there, as you guys can see, and then you have some nice accent stitching. You don't have to get the stitching, but it does add a little bit of pop, especially within this kind of monochromatic setup. And of course, I think it sets off really nicely and plays beautifully off of this. So maybe if I just had this, I probably would have went maybe with no stitching, or if I just had this, maybe I would have went with no stitching. But there's something about having them both, having that yin and yang, you know, I don't know, it's just fun for me, and I think that's what made it very enjoyable. So yeah, after this one won me over, then I ended up getting this bad boy right here, and honestly, when I had this, that's when I really went on the search for something to really pair this with, and I just kept seeing these straps pop up on my feed, so I had to learn more. So Wristbuddys didn't reach out to me. This was initiated by me. I was interested in the strap, and of course I thought, hey, why not reach out and see if we can collaborate and you know, get a little video going. Now, A little bit more about the details. The TPU rubber that's here is a really nice construction. You guys can see beautifully molded, fits perfectly, guys. Great little contours to it. It's thick, and then it tapers down in terms of thinness, and then it also tapers down in terms of width. So you do have a nice pliable side underneath. I mean, it's all very pliable. Almost feels airy and foam-like, but in still a way that's quite quality. I could compare it to something like titanium. When you have a titanium watch, how it's just your brain tries to reconcile the quality with the lightness. I think that's kind of like it is here. Like, I can see that this is a quality detailed material just by all of the little details on here, how sharp they are in terms of the level of production. But it's just so light, so flexible. My brain wants to tell me this is cheap, but I know it's not cheap, which is interesting. I mean, it's not super expensive, right? This one is only $75, so slightly cheaper. But yeah, these are really cool. They both feature 2mm tapers, so this is going to taper down to 18mm for here. And one cool little detail is you're going to see that nicely signed Wristbuddys logo right underneath, so nicely etched into that what appears to be a, it looks like an IP or a PVD coating. So very, very nice. It could be a DLC, but I don't think that was actually specified. You can actually get them with normal steel buckles, but I think the blackout, obviously, in this case, makes sense, especially considering since these watches don't have any metal components on them, at least not any stylistically. I mean, there could be some metal somewhere in there, but for the most part, that's kind of the look. It's blacked out, quite monochromatic. So I dig that. And then this is going to taper down from, of course, 22 down to 20. So you're going to have a slightly wider buckle, still nicely signed underneath. You have nice floating keeper, and then you have another keeper that actually is stationary. It has little brackets on the side. So that's very, very nice. And yeah, if you haven't seen the full review of this is one thing that just is surprisingly good. Check this out. That's just awesome. I can't believe, again, that bioceramic or plastic, basically a fancy plastic, can have an action that is that good. That's wild to me. So yeah, this one really won me over, and it just made me give a second look to the whole MoonSwatch craze that I was pretty late on. But then, of course, let me just give it a quick wipe here. Then I get this piece, and yeah, there's something about the all white, especially with the Snoopy theme, the white on white. There's something that's, of course, very NASA about that for this little MoonSwatch. And yeah, this is just it does the job. Check that out. We'll let that pulse away there. It's not the most high-end thing, it's not white ceramic or anything like that, but again, it's a lot of fun and relatively rare. I mean, sure, they're pumping out a bunch of these, but the people who have them typically are going to be excited about them. This isn't a casual buy. You just pick up because it's there and it's in stock, and you just go, oh, okay, I'll get that one. No, like, chances are you're going to be looking up the specs. You're going to be learning about it. You're going to be kind of in this little cycle. And then the nice thing is, like, kind of everybody else who had to go through all that, they share that same experience. They have that shared experience. And maybe somebody paid a little bit above retail to get something shipped to them or something like that. Sure. But at the end of the day, that means you wanted it that bad. So yeah, I think, you should definitely wear it and enjoy it, and just check that out. Again, it's these straps just thematically are absolutely perfect. Now, one thing is I do have a slightly larger wrist at 7.5 inches. So let's actually get these on the wrist, and let me show you how they wear. All right, now, of course, with the low contrast, well, it's still high contrast, but just very monochromatic setup, just pretty much white on white. It's going to appear quite large, right, visually. But I have to say, it definitely fits like a normal Speedmaster Professional. It's just going to look a little bit larger because the dial and the bezel and the case all flow together. And I do have a slightly larger than average wrist, and I'm actually down to the last 2 holes on here. So for me, a little bit out of my comfort zone in terms of how much I'd like to have just a little bit more tongue hanging out of there, maybe another additional 10 millimeters of length, just and then scoot these holes over. But of course, somebody with really small wrists, this is great because now you can tighten things up and you'll have less tongue hanging out the other side. So I can totally understand why they made the decision that they did. So for me and my slightly larger than average wrist, it's not ideal. It still totally works and I'm fine with that, but yeah, ultimately not ideal. But let's go ahead and check this guy out right here. Ooh, the Thrifty Fathoms. Look at that. It just, again, it comes together. It feels complete. It just elevates the whole thing, right? Like this, the way these feel on wrist now just feels very complete. And the straps that they were originally on, I feel like they, as much character as they had, they fell short in terms of wearability. Collectability, great, like perfect to, lay out flat and, put in a shadow box or something, or keep crispy and new. But in terms of like wanting to strap it onto your wrist and really wear and enjoy these pieces, I wasn't really getting that from the OEM straps. So great to be able to get that here. And again, I know these aren't super cheap straps by any means, but they probably shouldn't be because they are done so darn well, guys. So let's go ahead and so we can still get both in there and I can still check out my notes. I'll just take this guy off and we'll get this going. So if you haven't seen the full reviews for these watches, they exist. They're on the channel. Go ahead and do that. Check them out whenever you get a chance. But we'll go ahead and kind of get into closing thoughts here. Now, both the Omega times Swatch Moonswatch and Blancpain times Swatch Scuba 50 Fathoms. They're both, highly controversial and divisive releases that I really consider, again, more marketing genius in terms of being a piece of memorabilia that's collectible than a solid option for daily wear timepieces. So don't let this video make you think that I'm trying to tell you need to buy either of these watches to try to wear every day. And if you do, I have nothing against that. That's just not what I see them in terms of their optimal use case. So that's just me. I also have tons of other watches. So I have enough watches that need to get in the rotation without worrying about these two. Now, in terms of, the straps, though, I think that's where it's less controversial because I think Wristbuddys really nailed these straps. They actually managed to add an extra sense of completion to the watches. Again, that OEM plus type of feel. It just elevates the total package to feel kind of less toy-like and more wearable overall. Again, like these straps make me want to put on these watches and wear them. My wife is ready to take this white Snoopy off of my wrist any day now and start making it one of her daily rotations. So, I mean, that just goes to show how well this kind of all goes together. So while they're not the cheapest strap options, I wouldn't consider them overpriced, especially when you account for their buy 2 straps or more, get 20% off discount. And the generally eccentric nature of the owners of these particular watches, right? Like the people who want these watches, who purchase these watches, source these watches, they're, a bit of a different breed. They're definitely collectors and they're definitely enthusiasts. This isn't meant for a casual. And if you are a casual, consumer and you bought one of these, good on you, because these are really cool. And I think they are definitely worth that consideration. And, I think they will help people get into the hobby. We've already seen that both of these models have helped the Blancpain sales for the 50 Fathoms, as well as, just to a whole nother level in terms of the Speedmaster sales, really, skyrocketing. So, again, although these two watches are quite controversial, I think the straps, we can all agree that, is there a more suited strap for these? Yes, there could be more expensive, more fancy. You could get OEM Omega straps and fit them on here. You could get a Blancpain sailcloth strap. You could do all these things that are going to cost more. But when it comes to the theme and when it comes to especially these two particular watches, blacked out, white out, Is there a better combination here? Let me know down in the comments what you guys all think. If you liked the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. And don't forget, if you haven't seen the dedicated review videos for these pieces, I'll go ahead and leave them up as links here on the sides of the screen. Thanks, guys.